At 9 a.m. in the water of the North Country, on which the blue sun threw its rays, the cornered salmon died with its last shriek like a rat's, while all its scales turned rainbow. Every morning at 9, the ghost of that salmon comes and goes in the sea of the white deep. For a long time, a sparrow has been sitting on its small eggs, to cool down its feverish breast. It flew off toward the twilight of an early summer. It rested at the top of a bamboo thicket along the shore, blown by a blue wind. And indulge for a while in combing its plumage, shaking the lice off its feathers. Then it straightened up, taking a look at the violet dusk of the mountains. The shining river in the distance, and the salmon pink shining cloud.
Good morning. Good morning to everybody who was blown by the blue winds of this season, to use words from our poetry, into this space, virtually or embodied, on this Sunday full of impediments, the normal ones of getting out of bed and getting dressed and feeling moved to leave the comfort of what we call home. And today, the challenges of the San Francisco Marathon route and power outages on BART. So take a deep breath and let's bring ourselves to this place and time, the specialness we have carved out for ourselves in this hour of reflection and connection. I'm really grateful for all the people who have made and are continuing to make this morning possible, including all of you. Thanks to Grace from Desired Effect, who is helping us out while Jonathan is on vacation, and Eric also, Shackelford. And thanks to our custodians who are on duty today, making sure that the building is ready for us, to Francisco Castellanos and to Matias Pineda, and to Carrie for the flowers, and to Dennis for being the worship associate, and Linda and Angelo for being our ushers. And thanks especially to our musicians. And I want to have Mark Sumner say a little bit more about the special blessing of this morning, musically speaking.
Yes, thank you. I want to draw your attention to page 5 in your order of service, and a little bit also bottom page 3. It's very unique for us here to have the opportunity to invest in a service where music is so organic that we've got one composer, one lyricist, a poet, all coming together in music that is very, very, very contemporary, very recent. And I just want to bring that to your attention because we've already heard 2 of 6 songs as part of a song cycle. And because it's such a rare event here, I wanted you to be aware of that. So enjoy what you'll see as translations on page 5 of Japanese poetry written by Shinjiro Kurahara. And these poems were recently rediscovered, I guess you might say, in an edition that's was published just not that many years ago at all. So we're thrilled to have Asher back also to demonstrate and to show and to perform these pieces for you. So during the service, hopefully you can invest in this opportunity for a truly organic musical experience. For worship, ready for worship.
Now it's time for our chalice lighting. And if you have a chalice at home or a candle that you'd like to light as we draw ourselves closer together, these are the words that are printed in your order of service. We light this chalice for the light of truth, the warmth of love, and the fire of commitment. We light this symbol of our faith as we gather together.
Our opening hymn is number 33 in your gray hymnal, Sovereign and Transforming Grace. I loved the words for today's service. The tune is a little challenging, so just lean in and, if we're gonna do this, let's succeed big or fail big, but let's do it with heart. I invite you to rise as you're able.
Sovereign
I'm Galen Workman, moderator of the Board of Trustees, and I want to thank you for joining us today. If this is your first time coming to service in person, or if this is the first time watching us on live stream, thanks for joining. If you'd like to receive a copy of The Flame, our weekly email newsletter, which includes a link to the order of service and Sunday live stream, you can fill out one of those yellow connection forms. Those forms are on the welcome table outside the sanctuary, perhaps in the pew in front of you in the holder, and also available through the link in the order of service or video description of today's service. My first vote for president was for an African-American woman, Representative Shirley Chisholm. The Democratic Party blocked her from the televised debates that her white male opponents participated in. But still, she received 10% of the delegate votes. I thought, and still think, she was the best person for the job. 52 years and 13 presidential elections later, I will have the opportunity to decide whether to vote for another woman of color. I know that I'll make my decision and I'll be motivated to cast my UU vote in November. And getting everyone's participation in the election is an important action to strengthen our democracy. I would like to invite Cal Ball up to talk about some ways you can help our country this fall. Cal?
Okay, we're in a different place than the last time I stood here and spoke to you. I can tell you, yeah, come on. Yeah. I want to start, I'm only going to take a couple minutes here, but I do want to start with some thank yous. Over this past Sunday, while I was out of town, there was a letter writing party hosted by Judy Straken. 8 folks got together and wrote a bunch of letters. Judith Stoddard and John Maliska have been stalwart partners in this effort, and I thank them as well. We are writing letters, folks. We've already put out a couple of thousand, and many more thousand to come. So come and see us if you're interested. We'll tell you all about it. It's easy to do. That gets about the best correlation that we have, information data says that we get a 4% conversion rate, meaning those that we send letters to get about 4% that we can track and say, yep, they went and voted. So it does work. With that said, I'm going to put the pinch on you for some money. Stamp donations. Stamps are not cheap, and I'm thinking in the last election cycle of 2022, we wrote 6,100 letters. And I'm thinking we're going to go past that one by a pretty good margin. So if you have extra stamps at home, or you can find a way to make us just even a small donation, got a jar out there, and we would appreciate it. The stakes haven't changed. We have more hope, and I'm not going to stand here and talk to you all about the stakes of this election. Galen put it beautifully, but they haven't changed. We are forming up, and we are asking you, all of you, to please step up in ways that maybe you've never stepped up before. So what does that mean? Means perhaps participating in a phone bank where we call, by the way, we call friendly people. You know, if you get them on the phone, you're going to have I promise you, you'll have an okay conversation. Encouraging those folks to vote, making sure they have a plan to vote, and they know where to vote. So we'll start weekly phone banks. By the way, no need to take notes. I'll be sending a blast email of where you can find these things and how you can participate. Really importantly is we are now officially, as of today, recruiting folks to come to Arizona. It's really wonderful. I just spoke with our UU the Vote national strategist. UU the Vote nationally has made Arizona its top priority. They have put together money and a budget. It's not a big one, but it's a budget to help offset the cost of travel. We will potentially, this is all in flux, so I don't want to say too much, but potentially be staying with other UUs in Arizona to hold down that cost. But we're going to go and knock doors. And I did this in Savannah in the 2022 cycle, and I will tell you, It is the absolute most effective way for us to have an impact on this election. That'll happen, the dates ranges October 25th to November 5th. We'll be there on Election Day. We're going to be poll watchers on the election day itself. So and once again, any donations would be welcome here to help us offset the costs of getting folks there. We'll have a fellow UU organization, well, it's the congregation, group of congregations coming from Portland, Oregon as well. So we're hoping to get a minimum of 20 folks between the two areas. So thank you if you've expressed interest. More details are to come, but there's my pitch. Come on by and see, and express your interest, and we'll figure it out. All right? Let's go, folks.
Thank you, Cal. And Cal talked about how to save the world. And now I'd like to introduce our affiliated community minister, the Reverend Shannon Fong, to tell you how you might save, or at least strengthen, our inner selves. Sean?
Good morning. I'm Shannon. I am one of the affiliated community ministers here with UUSF. And last week I shared a little bit about the San Francisco Contemplarium, the project that I'm starting and launching in August. And here I will tell you a little bit more about the motivating idea, which is about honoring our human journey. And so what do I mean by that? So I think that honoring our human experiences, our human journeys, is a foundationally important thing for us to do as humans. And not just because it's good for us psychologically, which it is, but mainly because I think deep down, we know that we owe these experiences a form of honoring. So, as an example, in our small experiences, when a friend loses someone they love, you send condolences. So you're honoring their loss in a small way. Or if a colleague gets a promotion, you say, congratulations, not because they have to hear it a gazillionth time, but because it's owed a form of honoring in a small way. So I think that honoring also applies to big moments, like someone comes of age, or someone retires, or someone experiences sickness or death. So we're honored, or we're called to honor these experiences in some way. So the San Francisco Contemplarium is all about building the structures that support us in that honoring. We don't have to do it ourselves separately in our ad hoc ways. So for example, in August, we're gonna launch a few things. One is journey groups, where we can honor each other in a more smaller, intimate experience, where we can share and hear and listen. Reflection jams on the full moon are a way to honor the last month of experiences. Public reflection stands in the park are a way for the community to honor itself by having a way to share joys and sorrows and to honor those joys and sorrows asynchronously as people pass through the park. So what else should we do? I believe that the UU perspective is really important in this project, which is why I'm really excited to bring and invite all of you to participate in the San Francisco Contemplarium. So next week, after service, I'm inviting folks to come gather in the chapel to hear more about the San Francisco Contemplarium, think about how we can build on this idea, hear what you're interested in, and go from there. So I hope to see you all there next week in the chapel after service. Thank you.
Thank you. The order of service lists upcoming events and links to opportunities to connect. Please join in any and all of them that interest you. I'd like to give a special invitation for you to join us after service today at 12:30, where there'll be a program with attorneys talking about preserving San Francisco's sanctuary city status. There'll be delicious food available along with delicious ideas. Please come. And now, before we pause to greet one another, I want to give special invitation to those of you on live stream to participate in greetings in chat. Maybe say hi and say who your first vote for president was or will be. And now, on live stream and in person, let's take a moment to greet one another.
Now then, it's time for our unison covenant and doxology. The words are printed in your order of service. These are sort of the promises that we make to ourselves and each other. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its prayer. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in freedom, and to help one another.
Skies, let songs of hope and faith arise. partridge scurries off the road, keeping a lot of chicks in check, gently scolding them while they hurriedly scramble across. There's a deep bamboo thicket over there. Where a sunny spot trembles in the setting sun. A partridge family huddled together, call to one another. A single paulownia flower falls with a ping. The sun will soon set. On each of hundreds of blue bamboo trunks, small yellow lights flicker. You, whom I met at a mountain pass at noon in the wind, behind a rock in the shade of a tree, two of us listened to a chorus of cicadas for a while, looking at, I suppose, a cloud in the distance. You led the way up, I the way down. A brief encounter, a brief dialogue, a bright image. So long in the wind, a bellflower was swaying, wasn't it? You soon disappeared behind silver grasses like a butterfly. Your summer hat dazzling in the midday sun.
When Vanessa asked me to write a reflection on this week's theme about God, I couldn't quite do a proper job with my political mind reeling and all the news lately. I mean, that assassination attempt, another candidate dropping out. Well, when I think about politics and religion, I get Thanksgiving nervous about my relationship with my own religiosity. I'm so tired of the big divide in our framework and the folks who propagate negative outcomes. It upsets me that Roe was overturned by our own so-called Superior Court, leaving millions of young women up on a wire without a safety net. The very same forces are aiming themselves at our civil and private lives, not if, but when. It alarms me. I often remember the great Peter Finch as Howard Beale in the 1976 movie Network, in which he, as a soon-to-be retired news anchor, gets so fed up with the system that he threatens his own life live on the air with a pistol. Then his ratings improve, and he spirals on until in a climactic scene he urges his viewers and listeners to get up out of your seats and go to the window. Stick your head out that window and yell, "I'm as mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore." Well, the fall of Roe v. Wade and other political actions aimed at our LGBTQ plus communities of love and color makes me in my own mind shout that catchphrase, "I'm as mad as hell." But who among us is sick and tired of being mad as hell all the time? I, for one. Show of hands. Being so angry all the time just about drains one and saps your fight or flight response balance akimbo. One of my main outlets has always been a sense of humor and, of course, clowning around. As a professional clown for 46 years, I absorbed so much more love and joy that it often outweighed the gravity of real life and troubles. Yet I get so much despair about our political upheaval. Then, almost out of the blue, comes, for me, what was a ray of sunshine, Kamala Harris. It makes me want to open the window, but instead of shouting, "I'm mad as hell," shout, "Don't worry, be happy." Think of our long overdue first female president in over 200 years as a country. She may just represent a sea change in our lives, or a she change, if you will. Whatever your chosen candidate this fall, we'll all have the chance to get up out of our chairs and go to our windows and shout, "Hey, make sure you vote." And hopefully, also, don't worry, be happy. Because in my opinion, things will often work out for the best if your baseline is love and joy. I know you and I bank the coals of our own home fires when we save a little bit of anger behind it all. There are things to stay angry about. And our Wednesday morning vigils here provide an outlet for me there to witness to what is wrong. But I'm reminded again and again of the necessity of finding ways to ground and reground myself in love and joy. Now I guess you have a better idea of just what makes this clown tick, or ticked off. I suppose you could call this a tick-tock. Okay, Dennis, that's enough.
reflected on the eternal
I want to invite us into a spirit of prayer and meditation. Do what you need to bring your body into a presence and openness. In these days of high, strong sun and the spitting rain of fog, here in the particular patterns of summer, in this cool, gray city of love, we gather. What do we bring here? We bring our strong selves with all we know, with certainty, all the ways we wish to serve boldly, all the wrongs we know need righting, and the questions that need answers. Here, filled with life force, strong and vital, we come. Here we come with our quiet selves, contemplative and wondering, deeply inward, searching, filled with questions whose answers we know will take time to unfold, patient, aware and making space for all the tight, hard places inside to unravel and grow soft in their own time. Here we come with our hurting selves, broken open, lost, afraid, struggling and panicked, unmoored and unsure, aching and not knowing when we will feel hope and whole again. Here we come. Maybe a little of all these ways and others. Frustrated, yearning, silly, playful, creative, daunted, brave. We contain multitudes, the poet said. Always. Now. May we breathe into all we feel and are in this moment. Throw our arms around the tender and the painful. Welcome the tastes of life, both sweet and sour. Make a place for it all. Resist none. And even ask of it all what it needs from us. Knowing that all these pieces of ourselves and how we learn to hold them will at least prepare us to know how to hold and help others. May the wild array of what it means to be each of us right now be held in love. and the peace that passes understanding somehow be ours, and courage and hope carry us from this day to the next. Amen. And now our offering, which this morning will go to support the work of our Human Rights Working Group, and particularly to today's program, which is asking us to look and support the preservation of the sanctuary city that we have grown proud of and is under threat at the moment. That offering will be given and gratefully received.
Of the church gently shine salmon pink, and a cloud in the Song Dynasty crosses on the bottom. And splash, and then before I know it, swim in the azure sky.
Thank you, Asher and Bill. Imagine deep inside each of us, there is some chamber, a place where the richest treasures of our lives, gathered from our ongoing searches for truth and meaning, are kept. In this place are the things we cherish, know as sacred, orient our lives around, are brokenhearted when others and we ourselves and the world betrays them. Some of the things put in these chambers when we are young by those who want to start us off with a little orientation is treasure bequeathed out of generosity and care from our families, sometimes through the culture we enter into. It can get there in a lot of ways, but often there comes a time when we take these things out and we examine them for ourselves. We put some back in, leave others behind. That process, I think, is the core of spiritual maturation, the claiming ultimately of what is in this chamber of sacred truths and treasures for ourselves. God, some notion of God, is often there in some form, particularly in the West, at least in what we inherit, and our sense of a relationship to that purported reality, too. The set of sermons that Reverend Shenham and I have done on reimagining God is in part about what happens when many of us decide that the notions we inherited fall short. Exploring then whether there is some other notion of God that makes sense for us to put back in its place, or whether we abandon the God project altogether. Today, in this short and incomplete tour of the answers and the possible reimagination we might do, I wanted to talk a little bit about what can be put here under the label of agnosticism. The Pew Research Center has twice conducted surveys of the religious landscape of America. They've conducted similar other kinds of surveys, but in 2014, they interviewed 35,000 Americans over 50 states, all 50, and found that 4% were agnostic, 3.1% were atheist. Unitarians, in case you were wondering, were far less than 1%. Atheists, most simply understood, are those who say that they do not believe in a God, however they define that word and reality. Often when asked, folks who are atheists will say that they have come to this commitment either because they believe there is no evidence for God, and because they see a lot of evidence to the contrary. Horrific natural disasters, senseless suffering, human tragedy, loss, and evil. However they come to it, atheists are certain there is no God, nothing they would name that way or know that way. Agnostics, most simply put, are those who say they don't know. And often will add that they don't think we can know if there is a God. Like Thoreau, who, when asked on his deathbed if he believed there was a life after this one, replied he was taking it one life at a time, agnostics might reply similarly. Unable to know, they table the topic. They hold it lightly. They live this life as they can see best to. 83% of those who said they were agnostic also answered that they are clear there is a right and a wrong, but it depends on circumstances. And half of those surveyed say they use common sense when they're navigating moral and ethical decision-making. These two groups, atheists and agnostics, are most represented among the younger generations. And when grouped with those who say they are religiously unaffiliated and unwilling to claim any label, the nuns, as they are often called, this is increasingly the fastest growing cohort of religious folks in the US and maybe Europe. I have a lot of sympathy with agnosticism. To be fair, it is not a new idea in the religious landscape. The idea that our ability to know definitively about God is highly constrained and suspect. As it says in the I Ching, God and the devil are both human constructions. That, an acknowledgement that how we define the concept of God has always been a human creation conditioned by human limitations. That acknowledgement is as ancient as the concept of God and the attempt to define God itself. You might be interested to know that even in the Bible, 1 John 4, it says, "No one has ever seen the face of God." Our efforts to define this thing we call God have certainly met, too, with some horrific failures. Martin Buber, famous for his commandment to I-thou relationships, once rightly observed that God is the most heavy-laden of all human words. None has become so soiled, so mutilated. Even so, Buber and others have refused to let this God project go. Gordon Kaufman, a theologian who taught at Harvard Divinity School, acknowledged in his book, In Face of Mystery, that the question we most have to wrestle with, the real question, isn't whether human notions of God have often been evil or absurd in their construction. The answer to that is a clear yes. The question we have before us is whether there is something that looks godlike out there. Quote, "Some extra-human reality," he writes, "in relationship to which human existence gains its being and its fulfillment, some ultimate point of reference in terms of which our human life and its problems and possibilities must be understood." And how would we know that? This is the mushy, messy business that agnostics get queasy over. A friend of mine, Nadim Hussein, who became a professor of philosophy, gave a lecture about God, and one of Nadim's points, as I recall it, was that the quality of data we have in any investigation always conditions the certainty we can claim about our conclusions. So, double-blind research with large sample groups of participants, for instance, can claim more potential certainty in their results than chatting with a few friends over dinner, right? Kaufman gets this. He writes, "If God were an object, or reality directly and immediately apparent for all to see and recognize, no such quest or question, the whether there is this ultimate reality or God, no such quest or question would be required. The issue arises because God, taken by religious faith to be the most important reality to human existence, is also in many respects the most hidden from us." That's important, right? Since my friend, the philosopher, is correct, the level of certainty that we can claim about something has to be contingent on the ways in which we come to make our assertions, and no one has seen the face of God. So how do we know what we think and know about God, we human beings? Well, we can't say that we know God because of what texts or teachings have said, those that we've inherited. Because that line of knowing that's sometimes cited, that would only be true if we knew there was some unerring line of transmission from the one who experienced God or who was God incarnate and dictated these truths through all the human generations of religious leaders into whose care these texts have been given. But that would make that argument what philosophers call a tautology, which is where you assume the thing you are trying to prove in the arguing for it. Stay with me. Because the only thing that could ensure an unerring line of transmission of a text would be a God who protected and watched over that transmission of the text. So you would have assumed the God and some qualities of the God that you are seeking to talk about how you know about in order to validate the texts that teach about such a God. Does that make sense? Okay, so texts are not the way we know about God, not if we're honest. You and I might base what we think we know about God because of or informed by some inherited tradition or text. But the proof of that tradition, the test that it has to pass through and against, is our own experience, I think, of the world, our own experience in particular of the transcendent breaking through and present to us, I think. That is to say, we base our notion of God on our experience of what we would call God or God-adjacent experiences, to throw it a little wider. History, of course, has had scores of such experiences recorded and unrecorded. From the founders of all the major religious traditions and spiritual communities to my own grandmother, and I'm sure many of you have your own, I would guess. People through time have had any number of moments that felt different, transcendent, transformative, powerful, with clarity and connection that they would call something divine, something numinous, to use that beautiful word, mysterious, experiences they would call religious. William James wrote a whole book about it called The Varieties of Religious Experience. And one characteristic of those experiences is that folks often feel in their core, without a doubt or with minimal doubts, that those moments were existentially, undeniably important and real. Yet, not everyone has had these. And they're not scientifically repeatable. And these moments of powerful connection and insight and knowing are almost always fleeting and limited in the message or knowing that we can take away from them. Paul Tillich, theologian, in a beautiful sermon of his about grace, experienced the knowing of you are accepted in one of those moments. I'm reading King's, the new biography of King by Jonathan Egg, where it tells again that pivotal moment where King is caught in fear and threat during the Montgomery bus boycotts and has a moment that changes him, in which he knows and hears, I will be with you always. What we know after such moments, what people report after such moments, is powerful and limited. What we don't know after them is vast. We don't really know what or whom we're talking to, though it feels transcendent and important. We don't know much about what it wants and thinks beyond the little it has handed us. We get a glimpse of something that we think it can feel appropriate to call the thing people have put under the umbrella of God. We have a sense, maybe, that if we could know more, we would live our lives in connected and in service and trying to be aligned with this, but it passes. And these moments are strong, but they're often few and far between. Like a Zen cone, they point us to something beyond what we can know in the normal ways of knowing, and then they leave. So one reason I actually love and am drawn to Unitarian Universalism, to the plurality, the religious plurality that we put under an umbrella of our joint searches for truth and meaning and service, is that we get to sit together and have conversations among people who can have vastly different experiences of the religious life and the spiritual life and how they make meaning together. And we can put the pieces together and hold them all. Like the story of the blindfolded people who each have a handful of the elephant, that famous religious story, and each thinks they know what it is. It's like parchment, it's like the trunk of a tree, says the one with the leg. It's like a rope, says the one with the tail. But in the parable, what they have their hands on is so vast and strange that they only even have a chance of understanding it when they're in conversation. That's what we get. And we get permission to have those conversations, not pretend that we adhere to some creedal, unified sense of what we have our hands on that's so astounding or confusing. Even so, ultimately, the agnostic and my friend the philosopher have such an important caution. Our information, so fleeting, so partial, so mysterious, so limited, that we can only assert what we know in and about these moments with deep humility. Because as Gordon Kaufman wrote, this thing some of us sense to be the most important reality of human existence is also in many respects most hidden from us. And in the end, we'll walk away often left with mystery, a fundamentally unknowable thing. That's why I am a theist and an agnostic. I've had powerful, what I would call religious experiences of very different kinds for me that made true to me that there is something, I think, powerful and wise and loving that has felt very personally connected to me at times, and I only have very limited sense of what it is or how it works in the universe. And so I could wonder about this for my whole life, and I will. And in the meantime, in the face of mystery, what? I think in the face of mystery, this. I think we keep our eyes and our hearts open. I think we listen with real curiosity to the religious and spiritual experiences and intellectual insights of others about these most important questions of our lives. I think we engage in practices of opening, journaling, prayer, meditation, creation of art, whatever it is that for us throws the doors of our spirits open should this mysterious presence want to walk past and leave its perfume in our room once more. And as the agnostics apparently do, according to Pew, I think in the meantime, we try and make good moral choices based largely on common sense and the inherited wisdom from poets and scientists and prophets and thoughtful people through time that resonates with us as true. And we just try and ease the tide of human suffering because that alone we know we need to do, and that alone is a lifetime of work. Someday, my friends, some distant day for all of us, because I love you all and I want you all around as long as possible, some distant day, the blindfold on all of us will be removed. And we will know the answers to questions, some of our deepest questions, most confounding ones, like the one in front of us in today's sermon. And meanwhile, you and I, we live in this life that is rife with possibilities and wild unknowns. Meanwhile, we gather what sacred knowledge and cherished commitments we can, and we store them in the deepest chambers of our hearts and minds, and we serve them with our lives, but always reminded to live with deepest humility and open to mystery. So may it be. Amen. I invite us to sing our closing hymn, 368. Sing it with gusto, folks. It's another one that's fun and challenging. I invite you to rise as you're able in body and spirit.
A cappella.
Yes, we dive into the wild unknown here with some faith, hopefully some hope, and eventually with some love and joy by the fourth verse. So now let us sing. I will sing the lower part. Asher will sing the upper part. Now let us sing
to the power of faith within.
Now let us
Sing to the power of faith within.
Lift up your voice.
Lift up your
Be not
voice.
afraid.
Be not
Now
afraid.
let us
Sing to the power of faith within.
Now let us
Sing to the power of hope within.
Now let us
Sing to the power of hope within.
Lift up your voice.
Lift up your voice. Be not afraid. Sing to the power of hope within.
Now let us
Sing to the power of love within.
Now let us
Sing to the power of love within.
Lift up your voice.
Lift up your voice. Be not afraid. Sing to the power of love within.
Now let us
Sing to the power of joy within.
Now let us
Sing to the power of joy within.
Lift up your voice.
Lift up your
Be not
voice.
afraid.
Be not afraid.
Let us
Sing to the power of joy within.
Lovely. I invite you to put down your hymnals. Good job. That was fun. And join hands as we say our benediction. If you don't want to join hands, if you've got a cold or whatever reason, just cross your hands across your chest and the person next to you will know. I'll give you a little space. And now in our comings and our goings, may the light of love shine upon us. Out from within us, be gracious unto us and grant us peace. For this is the day we are given. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Amen.